If you are of a certain age, old, you may remember, like I do, that South Park was something of a cultural touchstone in the late 90s and early 2000s. It was inescapable, which was good news because that meant you could watch it behind your parents' backs and talk about it in school the next day with all your delinquent friends. Unless you were Mormon. But the times have changed. Instead of waiting for Mormons to come to your house at the ass crack of dawn to talk to you about things you don't want to talk about, you can just go on YouTube and listen to them talk about things you don't want to hear them talk about. But today, we're doing something very different. We're actually listening to a young Mormon woman excitedly talk about the South Park episode All About Mormons, which is, of course, all about Mormons. And this video is by far the most frustrating video I have ever seen. You will soon see why, so settle in and let's get started.
So for those of you who don't know, my name is Jessie, and guessing by the title of this video and the channel, yes, I am a Mormon. So remember, don't try to tell me what I believe in the comments down below, or just don't leave any hate, because you're not going to change my beliefs, so just no need to spread around more hate. The internet just doesn't need any more of it. So
Mormons act really nice, and I assume it's because they're nice people, but it's also something of a recruitment tactic. And you'll notice the way she phrased things there was very interesting. First of all, there was that enormous jump cut. She was going to say something like, "You're not going to change my beliefs and I'm not going to change yours," which is a perfectly normal thing to say. But for some reason, she cut out the "I'm not going to change yours," and it skipped right into that thing about there's enough hate on the internet, which I think we can all agree with. But disagreeing with somebody, or thinking they're kind of silly, is not the same as hating them.
anyways, I thought this would be a really fun video to do. South Park, I literally know nothing about it, you guys. I heard that this was like an episode that they did, like making fun of Mormons or just like talking about it, so I thought I'd check it out and like tell you guys like my reaction and also just like my thoughts on what the media thinks that Mormons believe in and all that stuff. So anyways, I've never seen this before either, so we're just gonna give it a fresh view and give you guys my review.
If you are an ex-Mormon or know a lot about Mormonism, then you can skip on to the next part. If you don't know much about Mormonism, just stick with me for a second longer so I can explain a couple things you might not know and might want to know. The first thing is, South Park is obviously a very lewd and explicit show. Mormons don't like to watch that kind of thing, typically. Now, there, of course, are plenty of Mormons out there, so I'd assume some do, but for the most part, it's not something you would want to admit to. When she says she's never seen it, I believe her. The second thing you need to know is that Mormon communities in Utah and Idaho specifically are very insular. A bit less so in places like Arizona and California, but still very insular compared to a lot of other groups, which is fine. There's good historical reasons for this to be the case. You'll notice she's very skeptical of this episode, what it's going to be about, what it's going to say about Mormonism, and again, they've got good reasons for being skeptical. But you just need to know the history there real quick, because it defines her whole attitude to how she's approaching this thing. Now, we can move on.
We have a new student joining us today who has just moved here from Utah. I want you all to say hi to Gary.
Of course he's from Utah, but honestly his name is Gary, so that's like they could have given him a weird Mormon name at least.
Well, it's great you could join us for family home evening, Stan.
What's that? That's when we don't allow any TV and just entertain each other with music and stories. Doesn't your family ever do that?
Okay, so family home evening, that's pretty much it. Like, I mean, family home evening is just like a week or a day, like, an evening that the church has suggested that we get together and have literally like a family evening where, yeah, we play games or do whatever, and so we just like talk and get to like, you know, have just like a good family time, and so that's funny they put that in here.
So we are a few seconds into the episode, and her expectations have already been dashed, because South Park is just treating Gary like a normal guy, because he is. He's just Mormon.
The Book of Mormon? What's that?
You know, the book that Joseph Smith found.
Who's Joseph Smith?
Okay, so Joseph Smith found the Book of Mormon, but he didn't write it, guys. So I'm excited to see like what they're gonna say about it. Also, they've done analysis on the Book of Mormon and the different books that are in them, and they've proved that the actual books were written by 15 different authors, because there's 15 different books in the Book of Mormon. Their writing styles are so different, and so Joseph Smith actually couldn't have written the entire Book of Mormon himself.
Okay, two things to point out here, very minor things. The first thing is, in fact, Joseph Smith did not actually write the Book of Mormon. He merely dictated it out of a hat. using a rock. It's a long story. They're going to tell it. The second thing is, there is no way 15 different authors wrote the Book of Mormon. You know how I know? I've read it, and the phrase, "and it came to pass," is in there like 2,000 times. If you removed every iteration of "and it came to pass," the Book of Mormon would suddenly become the pamphlet of Mormon.
Only the most important person in the world.
Not true. He's not the most important person in the world. That is Jesus Christ. For sure, we do not worship Joseph Smith.
Technically, the Mormon Church is actually called the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or LDS for short. So they do claim to be all about Jesus Christ, but the person I've heard them talk about most in real life when encountering them has been Joseph Smith.
Ever heard of him? No. Tell us the story of Joseph Smith again, Dad.
All right, you rascals, gather round. Joseph Smith lived in a little American town in the early 1800s.
You got the date right.
Dee-da-da-dee-da-dum. Joseph Smith was called a prophet. Dum-dum-dum-dum-dum. He started the Mormon religion. Dum-dum-dum-dum.
He didn't really start the Mormon religion.
No doubt when she went for the pause button, you were expecting her to say something about the whole Joseph Smith was called a prophet, dum-dum-dum-dum-dum thing. But no, she didn't notice, and she never does, the whole video. Not once.
You can check it out in my other videos. I've explained where the church came from and everything, but Jesus Christ had a church. It was lost once after Jesus Christ died, and all of his apostles too, and then it needed to be restored. So Joseph Smith was just a prophet, just like Noah or Moses or any other prophet in the Bible, who just restored the church of Jesus Christ. He didn't like make a new church or make a new religion. It's legit just the church and the teachings that Jesus Christ had when he was here on the earth. So, yeah.
I find two things very interesting here. One thing is that she's putting Joseph Smith on the same level of a Moses, for example. The next thing is, apparently Jesus just forgot to mention a bunch of stuff on his initial tour through the Middle East, and later on decided, man, I knew I forgot something. I guess I have to tell the Native Americans. And then they also just kind of forgot about it.
Dum-dum.
There goes that kooky Joseph Smith. You know, he claims he spoke with God and Jesus.
Well, how do you know he didn't?
Dum-dum-dum-dum-dum.
That was good.
Joseph Smith was called a prophet.
Hey, Joseph, I told my wife that you spoke with God and Jesus, and she didn't believe it.
Well, it's true. I did.
Where?
I was out in the woods, praying. I was asking God if I should be a Protestant or a Catholic or what, and suddenly God and Jesus appeared before me. And they said I should start my own church, because
You should not start your own church. That was not what they said.
Now, Mormons love this idea that their church is merely the restored version of a church that's much older, like 1,800 years older. But the problem is, no matter what you call it, Joseph Smith did in fact establish this church. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is a direct descendant of what Joseph Smith established. They may say, well, technically God could have chosen anyone to do it, but Joseph Smith is the one who did it.
I am Moroni. I am a Native American.
a Native American? But your skin is white.
Yes, long ago all Native Americans were white. We all came to America from Jerusalem, and while we were here, we were visited by Christ.
Jesus
Very
lived
true.
here in America?
So we don't believe that Jesus lived in America. We believe that he came to the American continent, though. After his resurrection, he came and visited the people that were here, because there was people on the American continent, and that's where we believe the Book of Mormon came from. It's the ancient writings from the people who lived here on the American continent. So we use the Bible and the Book of Mormon, guys. They just complement each other. And but yeah, so I mean, they got the ancient Moroni guy, right? He was a Native American.
I think this is where one gets the sense that Mormons maybe sometimes aren't aware of how other people are going to be hearing the things they're saying or otherwise agreeing with. Moroni was white. He was a white dude. She is essentially agreeing with the idea that all natives were white before they were cursed with brown skin. Yes, this was real Mormon doctrine, and in fact, if you read the actual Book of Mormon, it's still in there. It's still in there, and in fact, it was in the South Park episode too. She just cuts it out.
There is an ancient book buried near here, written on gold plates that account my people's lives. Also buried with the book are two seer stones, the Urim and Thummim, which will allow you to translate the writings. Find it and fulfill your destiny. Wow. Dum dum dum.
That was like a paraphrase of Moroni, of what Moroni said to him, but I mean, they got the gist.
Dum 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 dum.
Dad, how come you never told me about Joseph Smith?
Who?
Shut up, turd, we're watching Friends! The guy who spoke to God and Jesus.
Well, Stan, God and Jesus don't actually speak to people.
That's not what the Harrison said.
Who are they?
God and Jesus have spoken to people a ton. Just read the Bible. Why can't it happen in 1800 to Joseph Smith? I mean, it happened to tons of people in the past, too, so I mean.
Mormons today believe, as do many Christians and other religious people, that you can, in fact, talk to God and ask if these things are true, and He will tell you if they are. One of the main things I hear from Mormons is that I prayed and I asked if the Book of Mormon was Jesus' word, and it was confirmed to me. So it must be the case. But there is a documentary on YouTube called Spiritual Witnesses that I point out all the time. Love it. It's amazing. It's various people from different religions talking about their incredible experiences of conversion, where they asked which religion is the true one. And they ended up in any number of different religions and some cults.
They're not kooks, they're cool. I mean, how come we never have a night where we don't watch any TV and we just do stuff together and eat and drink?
We have that, Stan. It's called Friday Night Kegger.
But that's just you and your friends.
I said shut up, turd!
Mr. Harrison said that I need to be following Heavenly Father's plan, and I don't even know what that is.
All right, that does it.
Oh, kid is
Where are
so
you
good.
going? Randy, don't cause trouble.
Let me handle this, Sharon. You gotta put these cult people in their place or else they never stop.
Okay, we are not a cult.
Excuse me, are y'all with the cult?
We're not a cult. We're an organization that promotes love and...
Yeah, this is it.
Look at the definition of a cult. They follow a person. We don't follow I mean, any religion would be considered a cult. We all follow a person. We follow Jesus Christ. So, I mean, we're no different than any other church in that sense. We're not a cult.
Fun fact, Mormonism does, in fact, have a leadership structure where the main leaders are referred to as, get this, prophets. Yes, the thing she just said they don't have. They do, in fact, have.
I love when people call it a cult because it's like, then that would make all religions cults.
Whoa there, soldier, you're getting really close to a dangerous revelation.
We literally just follow Jesus Christ. We don't follow Joseph Smith. We don't worship him.
There is a rule book replete with prophecy after prophecy given by God to people like Joseph Smith and Brigham Young, and even the modern prophets, seers, and revelators. That's the rules they follow, Doctrine and Covenants. And it was written by the prophets of their church, which they still have.
I dug around all morning where the angel had told me to look. Maybe there isn't.
He didn't have to dig around all morning, guys. The angel directed him where he should go. And he saw it in his dream the night before.
Anything out here. Wait a tick. What's this? Wow. Inside the stone box, I found the magical seer stones. Under that, I found 4 gold plates written in strange writing. This must be the gospel that Jesus told the Nephites. Well, they were the most amazing things I'd ever gazed upon.
Wolf, so where are they?
Where or what?
The gold plates and the seer stones, where are they?
Oh, well, I was not allowed to take them. You see, after I found the plates, the angel Moroni appeared to me again and said that I am not allowed to show the plates or the seer stones to anybody because first...
I hate to be a cynic, I really do, but I am a cynic, fundamentally, and I have to say, it is astounding to me that anyone could hear this story and be like, yeah, that's how it happened.
I must translate what's written on the plates into English, so you can all read it.
Dum 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 dum.
Wow!
Amazing! He found the stones and golden plates. Dum 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 dum. Even though nobody else ever saw them. Dum 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 dum.
Okay, that's not true. Other people saw them. Actually, if you guys get a copy of the Book of Mormon, which actually there's a link down below in my description box, if you want a free Book of Mormon, you can have it delivered directly to your door for free. But anyways, in the Book of Mormon, in the first like 2 pages of the introduction, there's the testimony of the 3 witnesses and testimony of the 8 witnesses. So a total of 11 people actually saw the golden plates, and they wrote down their testimony to prove that, like, yeah, we actually saw these things, they really exist, and here's our names to go with it. So more than just Joseph Smith saw the golden plates.
Let's take this one over to my man, Mark Twain. Some people have to have a world of evidence before they can come anywhere in the neighborhood of believing anything. But for me, when a man tells me that he has seen the engravings which are upon the plates, and not only that, but an angel was there at the time, and saw him see them, and probably took his receipt for it, I am very far on the road to conviction, no matter whether I ever heard of that man before or not, and even if I do not know the name of the angel, or his nationality either. And when I am far on the road to conviction, and 8 men, be they grammatical or otherwise, come forward and tell me that they have seen the plates too, and not only seen these plates, but hefted them, I am convinced. I could not feel more satisfied and at rest if the entire Whitmer family had testified. I should hope I don't need to clarify, but for anyone wondering, that was indeed sarcastic. Mark Twain did not become a Mormon.
Okay, and also people were really trying to steal the gold plates too from Joseph Smith and like threatening to kill him and steal them. So yeah, there was a reason he didn't just show them to everybody. Also, the Urim and Thummim, or the seer stones that they're talking about in this, were also mentioned in the Bible. They just aren't mentioned like what exactly they're for. But if you go back to the Sons of Aaron, yeah, it talks about them in the Bible as well. So.
Well, if a book I don't believe in anyway tells me they're legit, who am I to argue? Even though apparently the Bible doesn't actually explain what they are, so you could make up anything you wanted to about them, and Joseph Smith was known to use things like quote-unquote seer stones to rip people off. He was actually convicted of it once. Man literally went to jail for running a con on some people with these seer stones.
Sharon, did you know this guy Joseph Smith found a New Testament to the Bible buried here in America?
What are you talking about?
Well, it's just that the Harrisons are really nice people, and you should see how loving and together their family is. I think there's something to that religion.
That's what they made me think, too.
No, right, that doesn't. From now on, our family is Mormon.
She does a cut here, but I couldn't find the episode online easy enough to watch it myself and know what exactly she cut. So I don't know if it was something unflattering or not, but I know that she has, in fact, cut out several unflattering things, because I remember them in the episode last time I did see it, which wasn't that long ago.
You remember Martin Harris, the rich man who wrote down what Joseph Smith read out of the hat?
Yeah?
See, after he was done, he took some of the pages of what would become the Book of Mormon home.
Martin went home to his wife, dum-dum-dum-dum-dum, and showed her pages from the Book of Mormon, dum-dum-dum-dum-dum.
And so Joseph Smith put his head into a hat and read to me what the golden plate said. I wrote it all down and we're going to publish it into a book.
Martin, how do you know he isn't just making stuff up and pretending he's translating off golden plates?
Lucy Harris, smart, 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 smart.
It seems like she did notice the smart change. So maybe she did end up noticing the dumb part as well, but just never comments on it. I remain uncertain. Some people have said she noticed and just didn't say anything. I'm not so sure, really.
Why would he make it up?
Martin Harris, dum-da-dum.
All right, here. I'm gonna hide these pages. If Joseph Smith really is translating off of golden plates, then he'll be able to do it again. But if Joseph Smith is making it all up, then the new translations will be different from these.
Okay, fine. I bet he'll have no problem.
Lucy Harris, smart, smart, smart. Martin Harris, dumb. So Martin went on back to Smith, said the pages had gone away. Smith got mad and told Martin he need...
Okay, so they pretty much got the story wrong here. They were good until this point, but what actually happened is Martin Harris wanted to show his wife and his family some of the translated pages so that we could prove to them like this is what they were doing, because they were kind of upset that he was spending all his time and they didn't really know on what. So Martin went to Joseph and asked him if he could bring some of these pages home to his family, and so Joseph went and asked God, and God told him no. And then once again Martin asked Joseph, well, can you ask again? And God said no. Well, Martin kept bugging him, and because his family kept bugging him as well, and so Joseph asked God the third time, and God said, okay, you can show only a select people these translated pages, which was Martin's wife and his family. So Martin took the pages and showed them to his wife and his family, but then he also ended up showing them to some other people, and then they were eventually lost as well. Then a few weeks went by, and Martin Harris didn't return because he was so upset that he had lost the pages. And Joseph had received a vision that actually the pages had been stolen by some really bad people. Once again, they were trying to steal the plates and things like that. And they ended up changing the translation that Joseph had already done. So that way then, if Joseph translated that section again, they could be like, oh, it's wrong, and technically prove that Joseph was incorrect with his translating. So what ended up happening is God actually told Joseph, don't even translate that stuff again, because an abridged version has actually been made in the next book.
So I left that long, gish-galloping response in there just so you could see it, just so you could see that whole uninterrupted, majestic thing happening before our very eyes. This wonderful thing that we all just witnessed together. Wasn't it beautiful?
Yes, he is so mad that he will never let me translate from the plate of Lehi again.
It's true.
You start to wonder where exactly the line is between naivete and gullibility. Like, where is the line between these two things? Where does one end and the other begin? Because to hear that story and think, yeah, that makes perfect sense. There is a line being crossed here. There are gullible people out there who would hear this and go, I don't believe that. There are naive people who would hear that and go, I don't believe that. I assume there are people on both sides who would be like, yeah, it sounds legit, but there's a line there. And I just wonder, like, where is that line?
Said, we must now translate from the plate of Nephi. So it will be the same basic story, but written a little differently.
Wow.
So what happened, the Book of Mormon is just like the Bible, how the Bible has different books from different prophets in the ancient times. The Book of Mormon, same thing, it's written by different ancient prophets. So the books, the names of these individual books inside the Book of Mormon have names like Nephi and Moroni and things like that. And so Lehi was actually Nephi's dad, and Lehi wrote down stuff first, and then Nephi wrote down actually an abridged version of what his dad wrote. So that is why what Joseph Smith ended up translating was legit just the same. So that's why God's like, don't bother translating anymore, because that's not even really needed. So,
or, and I know this is extremely unlikely and incredibly unreasonable to even imagine, but just follow me here for a second. What if Joseph Smith was essentially making it up? And once the pages were lost, he knew he could not, in fact, replicate them. So when he was challenged to, he made up some excuse like, well, God says I can't translate from those same pages again. I have to do it with this new book. Doesn't that sound possible? I'm not saying it's plausible. I'm not saying Joseph Smith wasn't the man. He certainly sounds like the man. He certainly sounds on the level to me, but isn't it a possibility?
There you go.
Wait, Mormons actually know this story and they still believe Joseph Smith was a prophet?
Well, sure. The story proves it, doesn't it?
No, it proves he did make it all up. Are you blind? Well, Stan.
It's because that's not the real story.
Let's make note here that sometimes being technically correct isn't good enough. She's technically correct that the way the Martin Harris story was told with his wife was incorrect as far as we understand it. However, the part where the pages were lost, Martin Harris goes to Joseph and tells him about this, and Joseph says, well, I can no longer translate from those old plates. I have to translate from new ones with a slightly different version of events. That part is true, and that's the relevant part here. The part where pages were lost, and Joseph Smith could have plausibly been concerned they would turn up and prove he was maybe making it all up. I think that's the part that we're all stuck on here. I think that's the sticking part of this whole story, not the question of what really happened with Martin and his family.
Hey, Stan. Oh, brother. The Joseph never returns. Listen, I just wanted to let you know you don't have to worry about me trying to be your friend anymore. I don't? Look, maybe us Mormons do believe in crazy stories that make absolutely no sense. And maybe Joseph Smith did make it all up. But I have a great life and a great family. And I have the Book of Mormon to thank for that. The truth is, I don't care if Joseph Smith made it all up. Because what the church teaches now is loving your family, being nice, and helping people. And even though people in this town might think that's stupid, I still choose to believe in it. All I ever did was try to be your friend, Stan. But you're so high and mighty you couldn't look past my religion and just be my friend back.
Okay, so she cuts out the part where Gary calls Stan some kind of curse word. I forget which one or how he says it. But she cut that part out because, of course she did. Her precious audience couldn't bear to hear such things coming from a good Mormon's mouth. But I digress. This is really fascinating because I think the message of the episode was, sure, people believe weird things, and lots of them, but that doesn't mean you just reject them offhand as being bad or crazy, which is a good message. It's certainly a good message, but the thing is, A few years after this, during the whole Proposition 8 fight over gay marriage in California, Mormons put a lot of energy, effort, and money into getting gay marriage banned in California, and that is a stain that has yet to wash off and has caused a huge number of people to leave the church. This episode was made when Mormonism was more of a cultural curiosity, and before Mormons started interacting with the world on a wider basis. There wasn't a YouTube yet. We were several years out from that. There wasn't really anything happening with John DeLynn or Mormon stories. There just wasn't a lot of stuff out there about Mormonism. It was just a weird thing weird people believed that showed up on your doorstep sometime. And this episode was intended to just sort of humanize them a little bit. Saying, yeah, it's strange, but hey, it seemed nice enough, which, as I said, great message, right?
Okay, so that was the end of the episode. I mean, you kind of heard my thoughts. They were, like, actually pretty, like, they were a lot closer than I actually thought they would be. They just, like, totally changed the ending of the Joseph Smith story to, yeah, make it sound unbelievable.
No, they made the change to make it sound more interesting. That's all they did there, but they didn't make it sound more unbelievable by making one character smarter than all the others. In fact, it's the story that makes the story unbelievable.
But like I said, you guys, and actually like they said in the episode, you know, you don't have to believe my religion, but at the same time, I have a testimony that I know it's true. And you can also find out for yourself if it's true or not. And like I said, you can get a free Book of Mormon sent to you down below with the link I have. And then also, what we honestly tell people is that you can actually pray and ask God if it's true. I mean, who better to tell you than God himself?
I think I referenced this earlier in the video, but I'll do it again just because it's really important to make this point. There is a documentary on YouTube called Spiritual Witnesses. Since we're nearing the end of the video, this would be a good time to just go watch that one. Spiritual Witnesses. It's pretty short. It's like, 13 minutes, something like that. It has people converting from one religion to another because they ask God, and God says, yes, it's this one. But all the religions are different, and there are some actual cults in there. It's a fascinating documentary because it reveals how people describe the same exact feelings about their religions and what led them to these religions. It is a fantastic documentary, and I will be linking it below just so you can click on that if you want to get off of here early.
So yeah, the story was pretty close, but there was some major flaws as well. But overall, it was pretty dang funny. The language was a little bit intense, but anyways. So yeah, that was my first South Park episode. I don't think I'm gonna be watching any more, but they were pretty spot on. I really like their image of the Mormon, like the perfect Mormon family too, like driving a minivan. All Mormons don't live in Utah, guys, and we're definitely not all that perfect, or any of us perfect for that matter, or do you even think that we're perfect? We're super not. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this little reaction video.
Oh boy, did I ever, in kind of a masochistic way, frankly. So, thanks for coming, thanks for being here. This is the end, my friends, and I'd say we're all glad to be here. Have a great one.